We begin the news with the planned protest by the retired police officers, where the retired officers, in company of civil rights activists and widows of fallen officers, have taken over the entrance of the headquarters of the Nigerian police force in Abuja on Monday, demanding justice and improved welfare for security personnel. The protesters, united under the hashtag police protest movement, cited years of unpaid pensions, poor salaries, internal extortion, and what they described as slavery-like conditions within the police force. Now carrying placards in hand and chanting songs for reform, the demonstrators say they are no longer willing to keep quiet about their situation. Among their key demands are prompt payment of pensions, improved welfare packages, justice for officers allegedly detained without trial, and a total overhaul of internal policing culture. Organizers say this is only the beginning of a national push to hold authorities accountable for the lives and livelihoods of Nigeria's law enforcement community. Meanwhile, the Inspector General of Police, Kayode Egbetokun, has directed all commissioners of police across the country to provide maximum security for the peaceful rally. Force Public Relations Officer Olumuyiwa Adejobi disclosed this in a statement. He also cautioned against the spread of misinformation surrounding the protests scheduled to be held nationwide on Monday. Adejobi, an Assistant Commissioner of Police, said that some narratives were being deliberately twisted to discredit the federal government and undermine the current leadership of the Nigerian police force. He said the call by retired officers to exit the contributory pension scheme was not a recent development. News Central Sagir Ibrahim, who is covering the demonstrations in Abuja, now joins us for more updates. Thank you for joining us, Sagir. Can you paint us a picture of what the situation is at your end? All right, we will try to reconnect with Sagir. Now, also joining us to discuss more on this is Hassan Taiwo, Soweto, his member, hashtag End Bad Governance Movement in Lagos State. Thank you so much for joining us, Hassan.
Thanks for having me.
Now, tell us, how does the hashtag End Bad Governance Movement view the planned protest by the retired police officers regarding their pension entitlements?
Yes, we think it's a very good development because don't forget that over the past few years, it's been like maybe the police in Nigeria are immune from the hardship that the rest of the population are facing. So right now that you then have retired police officers also on the street carrying placards, I think it helps to show very, very clearly that what we are fighting against, the system of capitalism, the hardship in the land caused by anti-poor policies of the government, concerns everyone, especially the rank and file of the security forces. And I think that that is the symbolic message that the protest today is passing. And the retired police officers have all of our support, they have all of our solidarity. We think there is an important development, and we urge the trade unions and the wider society movement to give all of the support to the struggle of these retired officers.
And now, do you believe that the government is doing enough in order to address the pension challenges facing these officers and other public servants?
Actually, the federal government has really not been doing anything serious over the past 2 years, for instance, that the Retired Police Officers Association has been agitating against the contributory pension scheme. And neither has the government over the years actually responded to the different complaints by the rest of the workforce about the contributory pension scheme, because that pension scheme over the past 2 decades that it has been imposed on the Nigerian workforce has actually done more harm than good. This year is actually the 20th year that the CPS was imposed on the basis of a review that was carried out under the Obasanjo administration in 2004. which annul the old pension scheme and then impose a contributory pension scheme. Many of the complaints that the police officers unions are making today, several sections of the workforce have equally made it, including the academic staff unions of universities, as well as other different categories of the labor force. And the generic complaint is that, this contributory pension scheme is actually causing even more havoc than the previous pension scheme. Workers are having their own contributions deducted every month. Meanwhile, employers' own contributions are not being deducted, or if they are deducted, they are not registering, in the accounts. Apart from that, also is that there have been several complaints about, deduction. Removal of money from the pension account without the workers who are supposed to be aware of it being informed. There are other cases of people who retire, then suddenly they realize that they are not being paid their pensions, their gratuity is delayed. So there's a whole lot of complaints that the different sections of the workforce have been making, and the police especially have been saying that this pension scheme is not in tune in any way with their own interests, and they have been asking that they should be removed from this pension scheme and taken back to the old benefit pension system that Nigeria used to have. And the police authorities, including the National Assembly and the executive, have, over the past 2 years, just not responded to the retired police officers. And that is why you see this protest happening. Like we just had just about a month ago, for instance, how a retired police DSP talked about how little, he was given as gratuity after spending 35 years. How can somebody spend 35 years, in service as a police officer, and then he gets just about 2.4 million naira, as a gratuity, and then he gets a monthly pension of maybe 46,000 naira, and that's what an adult, an old person who has served this country victoriously is supposed to survive on a month-to-month basis. So there's a whole lot of problems, which is not just about the police alone. It's about a contributory pension scheme that is based on profit and that is not addressing the needs of the workers who actually need a proper pension system. And that what we have to say today with the protest that we have seen is that the Nigerian government needs to stand up not just to address the concerns of the police, but to actually overhaul the entire pension scheme for the entirety of the workers in this country.
Okay, Hassan, in addition to this particular protest, Nigeria has actually witnessed multiple protests on issues of workers' welfare, and this is, in a few months, right? How do you assess the effectiveness of peaceful protests in achieving reform in Nigeria's governance and public sector welfare? Because we know of so many protests that have happened, but, nothing has actually come out of it.
Well, I would like to say that there is no protest that has achieved nothing in this country. Even when a protest does not seem to achieve the core demands is put forward, the mere fact that people go out to protest, exercising their democratic right to freedom of assembly, actually does a lot in demonstrating to people in power that the citizens are not going to tolerate any iniquity, any impunity. So for me, I think that even when a protest does not achieve its key demand, a protest still is successful for the point of view of citizens coming together, to demand for what is right. Because ultimately, that is the only thing that keeps a society working. The ability of citizens to fight, to come together and say enough is enough. And that is what we have seen over the decades in Nigeria. Nigerians always coming out to fight, regardless of who is in power, whether it's a military dictatorship or a civilian government. And we have to say very, very clearly that on the 26th year of civil rule in this country, we have to say that if not for the eternal vigilance of the Nigerian people, if not for the periodic protests of Nigerian workers, of Nigerian youth, of Nigerian masses on different issues, this country would have really gone down the drain. This country would possibly, be close to the situation that Somalia is today, if not for the recurrent protests and agitations of the Nigerian people, demanding that anti-poor economic policies must be reversed, demand the accountability from the public office holders, railing against corruption and demanding that something should be done right. That is what has kept Nigeria together today. That is why, despite how bad things are, Nigeria can still be said to be a country, that is kept together, that is working.
All right,
meanwhile, when you look at the rest of Africa, you see society descending, into ethnic warfare and all of that. So I think that is the ability of the Nigerian people, the working class, the youth, to fight periodically, to protest, that has actually achieved this, and that has to be kept on, because that is the only way we have.
All right, Hassan. Now let's try to reconnect with our correspondent Ibrahim Sagir, who is at the protest currently. Sagir, can you hear me now? All right, if you can hear me, please go ahead and give us an idea of what the situation is where you are. All right, we still seem to be having audio issues, but let's come back to you, Hassan, just before we wrap up with you. Now, let's look ahead now. What are the next steps or even planned actions to be taken in order to amplify these calls for accountability, improved public welfare, and also an end to bad governance in Nigeria?
Next month, August, is another very historic month for Nigeria, being the anniversary of the bad governance protest last year. And discussions are ongoing among activists about how best to commemorate, that development. You could see that in Kenya, where a similar protest took place in last year, you had a very mammoth protest taking place on the anniversary this year to continue the struggle against the IMF World anti-poor policies, and to continue to demand accountability from those in power. That is the kind of discussion that's also going on in Nigeria today in terms of what happens next month. And as soon as the discussions are done and there's a clear roadmap as to what needs to be done, of course, an announcement will be made. However, what I just need to say before leaving is to say that struggle is the only way that the Nigerian people can actually defend themselves, and chart, a society that works for all. That former police officers are doing that today is a good development. We hope that other sections of the security forces, including the army and co, will realize that despite being in uniform, they are human beings and they are affected, by the policies of this government. We need everybody to come together. The unity of the oppressed people and the working class, is what can ensure that we are able to save this country from the capitalist looters who are not prepared, to lift, their heel, from our neck. That struggle again is the only way that we can be able to save this country for the benefit, of the mass of the people.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Hassan, for your time and for speaking on this.
Thanks for it.
In the meantime, the Nigerian Medical Association has warned of a nationwide strike if the federal government fails to meet its demands before the July 23rd deadline. Now, NMA President Professor Bala Audu, in an exclusive interview on Sunday, said the association is prepared to act decisively if its demands are ignored. The ultimatum was issued over a circular by the National Salaries, Incomes and Wages Commission, revising allowances for federal medical and dental officers, terms the doctors say breach earlier agreements. Now, Audu insisted the circular undermines the welfare and remuneration of medical professionals and violates mutual terms reached in previous negotiations. Thank you for staying with us. Now, moving on, Katsina State Governor Malam Dikko Umaru Rada has expressed heartfelt gratitude to citizens and well-wishers following a minor road accident along the Daura-Katsina Highway. In a live video shared from his residence, the governor confirmed he is safe and in good health after preliminary medical checks. He added that he remains under observation as a precaution, but is doing well in high spirits. The governor was returning from Daura when the incident occurred, and he thanked the public for their prayers and support, concluding with blessings and appreciation.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Al'umma muna godiya da addu'o'in da ake ta mana. Allah ya jarabce mu da hadarin mota kuma amma mun samu sauki alhamdulillah. Muna nan da ana ci gaba da dan diba mu domin samun sauki. Muna kuma godiya da addu'o'in da ake mana. Assalamu alaikum.
Now talking politics, the Senate has told suspended lawmaker Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan to stay away from its proceedings, insisting she cannot resume duties just yet. Senate spokesperson Yemi Adaramodu, in a statement on Sunday, maintained that no court order currently mandates her recall before the end of her suspension. Akpoti-Uduaghan was suspended in March 2025 following a confrontation with Senate President Godswill Akpabio, whom she accused of sexual misconduct, an allegation Akpabio denied. She recently announced plans to resume legislative duties on Tuesday, July 22nd, citing a federal high court ruling by Justice Binta Nyako. But Adaramodu insisted that the judgment contained no binding directive and merely offered an advisory urging the Senate to consider amending its standing orders and reviewing the suspension. To security matters, residents in Chikun, Kajuru, Kagarko, Giwa, and Birningwari local government areas of Kaduna State have called on bandits and terrorists in the area, which earlier signed a peace deal with representatives of the federal and state governments to lay down their weapons and abide by the terms of the deal. News Central's Emmanuel Bagudu joins us on the news for more updates on this. Emmanuel, thank you so much for joining us. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah, good afternoon from Kano. Yeah.
All right, please go ahead with your update. Let's hear.
Yes, it's actually a deal that is worth tracking. And of course, we have seen a lot of inconsistency in the side of the terrorists and then that of the government. Inconsistency in the sense that ever since this peace deal was signed in November 2024, of course, residents from other local governments have raised a lot of concerns that the terrorists have not dropped their weapons yet. They've raised issues of being harassed, being kidnapped. Of course, the recent, which is that of the Kara, Chikun, and then of course Kajuru. Of course, that of the biggest part of it is the fact that in Chikun local government we have the case of a 60-year-old rich farmer, a very popular farmer, Mr. Isia, and his son who were killed. They were all killed in that particular community after being kidnapped. We also have the district head of Kajuru, a district head of Maro in Kajuru local government who was also kidnapped. We also have a district head wife in Ikara who was also kidnapped and is still killed. So this raises a lot of questions about the consistency of the Kaduna State government, which of course they have to look at, which of course the questions of either the government or the terrorists have to keep their standard bargain, have to come to question it. Yeah.
All right, now, but how consistent have the government and terrorists been in maintaining this peace pact?
Yes, we can only see that kind of consistency in areas like Birningwari local government and then some part of Chikun. Of course, that is not that is quite partial, if I must say, because the only people that seem to be enjoying this peace deal are people from Birningwari and then Giwa local government. When you visit those communities, you don't hear about down south. You don't see that happening. We have cases of attacks happening somewhere in between Kachia, Kajuru, and then somewhere in Kagorko. Just like I mentioned in terms of the list. So it calls for a lot of questioning. The state government have to answer a lot of questions because right on the Birningwari Funtua axis, we still see a lot of bandits wielding AK-47 on the highway. When they will not attack, but they are still with their arms. So the question of peace deal has to do with laying down a complete surrendering of arms, not a case of people coming in with just few arms, meanwhile they have a lot of arms right inside their homes. So that is the issue, and that is very important right now. And it costs a lot of questioning, and the government have to, be up to responsibility. Yeah.
So what about the people, the residents of these local governments? How are they reacting to it? Because they did say that the bandits need to lay down their weapons and, abide by the terms of the deal.
Yes, the latest altercation we are having, the latest reaction we are having is the one coming from Dokar Jama community, who are still grappling with issues of banditry. Dokar Jama is just about 20 kilometers from the community center. We have that particular community which actually raised an alarm that they don't sleep, they're still being attacked, and they're having a lot of issues with the government. They have a lot of problems of social amenities not being taken care of. They are grappling with issues of land, and then, of course, with banditry. They are calling on the government to come to their rescue because they believe that issue of peace will have not been taken care of yet. So they are the ones currently, bringing out that outcry. Dokar Jama in Chicken government area of the state. They are saying that they have been attacked daily, and then there is no any sign that there has ever been a peace deal in that community. So they are reacting fiercely, and they need a lot of response from the government. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for that update, Emmanuel. Away from that, Edo State Governor Monday Okpebholo has denied threatening Labour Party's 2023 presidential candidate Peter Obi over his recent visit to the state. Obi had visited Benin on July 7 and donated 15 million naira to St. Philomena Hospital School of Nursing Sciences for ongoing projects. But Governor Okpebholo condemned the visit, linking it to renewed violence in the state and warning Obi not to return without prior notice. The remarks sparked public backlash, with many describing them as a veiled threat. In a statement issued by his Chief Press Secretary, Fred Itua, on Sunday, the governor clarified that his words were misinterpreted and stressed the importance of following proper protocol during such visits. Meanwhile, with former Vice President Atiku Abubakar officially out of the 2027 race, fresh contenders are stepping up within the People's Democratic Party. Reports say Oyo State Governor Seyi Makinde and Bauchi State Governor Bala Mohammed are among top aspirants eyeing the PDP's presidential ticket. Party insiders say both men have been quietly rallying support among stakeholders ahead of the 101st National Executive Committee meeting scheduled for Thursday, July 24th. While efforts are ongoing to secure a southern candidate, not all NEC members agree on zoning, sparking internal debate. Meanwhile, the APC's Director of Publicity, Bala Ibrahim, insists the PDP is headed for another defeat regardless of who emerges as flag bearer. President Bola Tinubu says the blessings of the late Awujale and paramount ruler of Ijebu land, Oba Sikira Adetona, played a key role in his emergence as president in 2023. While speaking at the 8th day Fidel prayers for the revered monarch on Sunday, Tinubu described the late Oba as a moral compass whose leadership shaped the socio-economic and political landscape of Yoruba land and Nigeria. Reflecting on the monarch's legacy, Tinubu recalled his role in the campaign to revalidate the annulled June 12, 1993 presidential election won by late business mogul Moshood Abiola.
Successful because of your support and the blessing of late Awujale. I came to him, he blessed me. And he said, you will win that election. Go ahead. Today is no more. It's gone. God has blessed us. If listening to the richness of his wisdom expounded by Governor, His Excellency Dakmo, Governor of Ogun State.
Away from that, the federal government has denied a false online report claiming the cancellation of the 2025 West African Examination Council and National Examination Council examinations due to widespread malpractice. Now, in a statement signed by the Director of Press and Public Relations, Federal Ministry of Education, Borio Wofolashade, it clarified that the 2025 WAEC exams have been concluded with minimal incidents of malpractice, which were promptly addressed. The ministry also assured that the ongoing NECO exams are proceeding smoothly without reported cases of malpractice. It advised the public to disregard the fake news and seek information from verified sources, including the official websites of the ministry, WAEC, and NECO. In a related development, the Ijaw ethnic nationality is advocating the creation of Ijaw states and strategic inclusion of their rights and interests in the Nigerian constitution as the review of the 1999 constitution takes place simultaneously in the 6 geopolitical zones across Nigeria. Now, in a show of unity, the Ijaw National Congress, the Apex Ijaw Group, made its stance known in Bayelsa State through a public procession. News Central's Biola Festus has more.
The Ijaw ethnic group, drawn majorly from 6 states, made them one of the largest ethnic groups in Nigeria. As Nigeria continues its constitutional review process, the Ijaws are also demanding a breakout of 2 homogeneous Ijaw states, Toru Ebi and Oil Rivers. President of Ijaw National Congress, Professor Benjamin Okaba, explains that the demand was informed by the quest for justice, political inclusion, and the preservation of the Ijaw cultural heritage.
The move is to sensitize people to make a case for the creation of 2 additional homogeneous Ijaw states. One, Torebe State, comprising of Ijaw people from Delta, Edo, and Ondo. Then the Oyo River State, comprised of Ijaws in Akwa Ibom and River State. And Bayelsa should be given at least 33 local government areas.
If these 2 states are not given to us, the other states that will be created by this Nigerian state, where they will get their funds to operate the local government and the state that will be so created. So the best way for them to do in the name of equity, justice and fairness is for the Nigerian state to give us the 2 homogeneous states that we have so demanded for a very long time.
Since 1999, the Nigerian constitution has undergone a series of review and amendments, but the Ijaws lament that they remain legally marginalized in spite of their deeply rooted history of economic contributions to the country.
The National Assembly has deemed it fit to conduct a public hearing on amendments and alterations. So we are here in unison to support this gesture, believing that at the end of the day, we shall have a people-oriented constitution. Remember, the 1999 constitution was forced on our people who have used the constitution to fester their personal aggrandizement and turned minorities into slaves in their country.
The demand for Ijaw states comes amid growing national calls for restructuring and true federalism.
We are not asking for a state. We only want to be moved from River State to Bayelsa State, making the Orashi River a boundary which is natural.
The Ijaw people believe that they are facing marginalization across various states, hence their optimism about having their own states. In Bayelsa, for News Central, Biola Festus.
Away from Nigeria, an international independent medical humanitarian organization, Médecins Sans Frontières, says it welcomes the release of the World Health Organization's HIV prevention guidelines for lenacapavir at the International AIDS Society conference in Kigali, Rwanda. However, the current patent licensing agreement signed by lenacapavir's developer, Gilead Sciences, includes restrictive conditions that hinder access to generic lenacapavir in countries included or excluded from the license. These conditions further restrict the scope of generic competition at the global level and limits broader access to more affordable generic options of this groundbreaking tool. To discuss more on this, we're joined by Tom Ellman. He is the director of the Southern African Medical Unit of MSF. Thank you so much, Doctor, for joining us at this time.
Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. Now, can you explain how the current licensing agreements of lenacapavir impacts access to this drug in low and middle income countries?
Yeah, perhaps I should just start by reminding people about the incredible opportunity that this drug brings. It is a real game changer, which with just 2 injections, once every 6 months, 2 injections a year, can be 100% effective in preventing HIV, particularly in women at risk, at higher risk of HIV. So it's incredibly important that people know about this, that they ask for access, and that we make it as widely available and as cheap as possible. And the problem that we have is that currently only one company, the originator, Gilead, make this drug, and the drug is very expensive. In America, it costs around $30,000 a year. And estimates, modeling has suggested it could be as low as $40 a year. So what we really need is generic competitors to come into the market, a large amount of demand, and the company to agree for those generics to be allowed to make it. And what we're seeing is that while we welcome the voluntary license in principle, it has these restrictive elements, which means, first of all, that only 6 companies are allowed to make it. There are only 6 companies in the license. They will all take at least a couple of years to be able to develop it. And there are many countries excluded, particularly middle-income countries, many countries where there are populations with a high risk are unable to get. So there are a wide range of elements within the license that we contest that should be made more simple. But fundamentally, we want the company to allow people to have access as widely as possible, to allow generic competitors to produce it widely for anywhere that needs it at the lowest possible price. And where you can't get a generic license, we encourage other measures for countries to access the drug.
All right, Dr. Ellman. Now, what are the main barriers in created by restrictive licensing conditions? You know, how do they affect the availability of generic versions?
Well, at worst, they mean that a company are not allowed to make the drug, even if they could, or that countries that need the drug are not able to access the generic drugs. So the licensing themselves comes with a number of provisions that restrict access. In addition, within this particular license, for example, there are very strict provisions around to avoid diversion, to ensure that the drugs don't go to the wrong countries, to the countries that are not officially allowed it in the license. And those measures can really put a freeze on willingness, because there are penalties that can be applied if companies don't abide by them. In addition, there's no transparency. And this is perhaps one of the most important problems. The company are not willing to share how much they will sell the drug for to countries or sectors outside the license, the drug that they're making themselves. And as a result, it's very hard for countries to work out how much money is needed to allow access, to ensure that they can plan for rolling out supply to the people who need it. And these 2 things work like a chicken and egg, that if you don't know how much the drug will cost, you can't plan to include as many people as possible on the drug. And without many people wanting the drug, needing the drug, it's very hard to drive down the cost of the drug through maximizing generic competition and the number of companies willing to produce the medicine.
So how does MSF advocate for more equitable access to groundbreaking HIV prevention tools like Kapavu.
So I think the most important element is working with communities, working with people who are at high risk, so that young women, adolescent girls, sex workers, men who have sex with men, any population who are at higher risk of HIV needs to know about this medication, and they need to demand access to it. So a large part of what we do is trying to both demonstrate the value through using the drugs in our own projects. And we are already using a similar drug, cabotegravir, another injectable drug that requires injection every 2 months to prevent HIV, that's been available for a while and is also restricted. We're using that in for example, Eswatini, in Zimbabwe, and planning in Mozambique, and potentially many other countries in Africa, potentially including Nigeria. And through raising awareness, communities start to ask for access. And that really is what drives governments and other actors and donors to push for a supply. So a big part of it is raising awareness. And then at the same time, working with partners and with international organizations, including with lawyers, to challenge patents that shouldn't be applied, to push and lobby the companies to remove the restrictions that limit access, and to call them out when the company are talking the good talk about providing access, but actually aiming to maximize their profits at the expense of people's lives.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Elman, for your time and speaking on this. With that, we will reconnect with our correspondent who is live in Abuja, Sagir Ibrahim, currently live at the retired police officers' protests at the moment. Sagir, if you can hear me. All right, Sagir, thank you for reconnecting with us. So earlier, your network actually froze, but we saw you interviewing Omoyele Sowore. What is happening where you are, and what did Sowore say? We apologize for that. We just lost Sagir. Now, hundreds of Tunisians marched along Avenue Habib Bourguiba in central Tunis to show support for the people of Gaza amid ongoing Israeli military operations. Waving Palestinian flags and chanting slogans, protesters called for an immediate ceasefire and an end to what they described as crimes against civilians. The demonstration drew citizens from various political and social backgrounds. The rally is one of several held recently in Tunisia, a country with a long tradition of supporting the Palestinian cause.
يجب أن يتوجه إلى الأنظمة العربية لإيقاف دعمها وإيقاف كل تعاملها مع الفلسطينيين وفرض رفع الحصار وفتح المعابر للشعب الفلسطيني، لأنه الجوع الآن هو أهم سلاح فتاك عند نتنياهو وعند المظاهرين اليوم في تونس وفي كل البلدان العربية وفي كل بلدان العالم. هناك شعور بخذلان شعب يتعرض للإبادة على مرض ومسرى من كل العالم، وهذه الإبادة تنقل مباشرة وتنقل عبر وسائل الإعلام وعبر الفضائيات.
Similarly, in Morocco, thousands have rallied in Rabat demanding an end to the war in Gaza and the reversal of Morocco's normalization deal with Israel. Now, protesters filled the city center, waving Palestinian flags and chanting slogans such as "Lift the blockade" and "No to normalization." The demonstration, organized by the coalition of Islamist and left-wing groups, highlights growing public anger over the humanitarian crisis in Gaza.
Ici, manifester, c'est pour dénoncer et faire en sorte que les choses changent positivement, dans le bon sens, que la communauté internationale prenne conscience de ça et agisse avec des actions concrètes.
على الأقل وأضعف الإيمان أن الحضور هذا الحضور ديالنا تلبية للنداء ديال يعني إخواننا يعني المجوعين، إخواننا اللي كيموتوا، الأطفال اللي كيموتوا في غزة، وضد سياسة التجويع اللي كيمارسوا عليهم الصهاينة.
وحق احنا جينا باش نساندوا الإخوان ديالنا اللي في فلسطين اللي مجوعين ومحاصرين، وساندوهم بالطريقة اللي هي سلمية حضارية.
All right, let's go back to the Federal Capital Territory. Sagir, if you can hear me now, please go ahead and give us updates on the protest.
Thank you so much, Dashin, once again. Right now, I'm here currently with Omoyele Sowore, who is one of the leaders of this protest. He will be giving us direct information as to the reason why they have decided to come out here in mass and in their numbers to picket the headquarters of the Nigerian police force. Good afternoon, Mr. Sowore.
Good afternoon.
Tell us.
Well, we are here on behalf of serving, retired, dead, abandoned, maltreated police officers across Nigeria to make a last stand with them, not on their behalf but with them, in the struggle for better policing in the country, welfare of police officers, and most importantly, our determination to see that those who are retired are not discarded like dead woods in this country.
Mr. Sowore, it's been raining for quite some time now, and you all have defied the rain. But then again, something interesting also happened earlier. I wanted to speak to, first of all, the fact that your AI glasses got snatched, but then also that some other individuals tried cornering some of these police officers, retired police officers, to another venue. Perhaps you can give us, a clear picture of what that is.
We have planned this knowing that there will be divide and rule. We have planned this hoping for the best and expecting the worst. So my glass was not snatched, my glass was robbed. I was robbed of my glass by a police officer in Mufti. And we have been able to find the footage of the act, and we will follow up with him. We know the thief, yes. But that's the problem. The police also has a lot of undisciplined persons who are engaging in crime. And one of them was caught on tape today. You go on my Facebook page, you will see him, you know who he is. So, but that's not why we are going to be distracted. And we are not distracted by the meeting at the corner. They have been having meetings with retirees for 10 years. They haven't solved the problem. So anybody that wants to go and drink account with the IG is your problem. Our interest is to get the federal government of Nigeria to recognize the right of these guys not to die after retirement.
In the world of sports, President of the Nigerian Football Federation, Ibrahim Gusau, says everything possible will be done to bring back life into soccer in Plateau State. The NFF boss was speaking in Jos when he made an official visit to ascertain the level of work at the Rangpam Township Stadium. When completed with good facilities in place, Ibrahim Gusau said it will host both national and international tournaments, and News Central's Chizoba Nyongwe reports that the governor of Plateau State, Caleb Mutfwang, who toured the facility with the NFF president, said the nearly completed Rangpam Township Stadium will be an all-encompassing facility that will also serve as a meeting point for people in the state.
We can bring back life into soccer in the Plateau. And as the governor said, there's no reason whatsoever we will have a good facility here that will not bring the national team to come and play here. And that is a promise. And once he kept his own promise, we have an obligation also to keep our own promise.
And that's all at this hour. But before we go, let's take another look at some of our top stories. We told you that IGP Egbetokun has directed CPS to ensure tight security nationwide as retired police officers protest. We also told you that federal government has denied cancelling WAEC and NECO exams. Finally, you heard that Tunisians have condemned civilian deaths in Gaza and called for ceasefire. Remember, you may send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number on the screen. Do follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, GoTV channel 23, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I'm Darshan Usman.